evening, and almost was I jumping the gun here? A little bit. I'm 20 seconds ahead. But welcome to the September 24th council meeting and public forum. And I don't have the sheets yet, but I will read the instructions about the public forum, which are familiar to probably everybody in the room looking at the crowd. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any, city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And I believe we have Councilor Zelenka on the phone?
Yes, you do. This is Councilor Zelenka. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. So I'm just waiting for the sheets to tell me.
There they are.
Oh, there. Oh, what do you know?
Magic.
They appeared by magic. So we have a total of 10, it looks like, and the first speaker is Chris Gadsby, followed by Deborah McGee.
Hello, I'm Chris Gadsby. I'm a resident of the Whitaker, and I am the acting chair of the Whitaker Community Council. I was here tonight just to say thank you to the city manager's office for the quick and prompt reaction to our conversation that we had in regards to the houseless issue of bathrooms. We have a porta potty. It's behind Bruns Market. It's working. There are a few challenges that are going on, but what I would like to say first is thank you very much. The guys at Bruns wanted to extend to us that they are no longer picking up feces from the alley. There is a positive, there is something positive going on by providing these simple commodities for humans who are unhoused. What I would also like to say is that we do have people that are camping near there because they're trying to find a way to get services, which we have none. We have no wet shelters. I know you're talking about them, and I think that's great. But what we have right now is a gray area where people are camping in the city property, which is the green zone. It's very challenging. They've been camping near the bathroom. They've been camping in front of people's houses. This has got to stop. This has got to be closed. This is a loophole that has got to go away completely. It's city property. Let's take proper care of it. There's offensive littering. There's drug use. There's also nefarious activities that are happening, yet the police have no recourse to do anything. It's very challenging for the citizens of the Whitaker. I'm sure it's very challenging for everyone. And it's very challenging for people that are houseless because they have nowhere to go. The visibility is good because it's creating a lot of fever of we need to do something, but it's not producing any results as of yet. So basically what I'm saying is these people need some hope, they need a place to go, and they need something to do to become members of our community where they can feel welcomed. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And thank you very much. I really do appreciate that, sir. Cheers.
Thank you. Deborah McGee, followed by David Ivan Piccioni.
Good evening. My name is Deborah McGee. I've lived here for 36 years. Carmel, 1975. Beverly Hills, 1976. Hollywood, 1986. Belvedere, 1987. Berkeley, 1981. Santa Barbara, 1997. And the city of Los Angeles, 1998. What do these cities have in common? They've all banned gas leaf blowers. The first ban taking effect in 1975. I could have read a list of 180 cities that have banned or brought restrictions. In the majority of these cities, not just in operations, but in the entire city limits by commercial and residential entities alike. Why did these cities disrupt the use of gas leaf blowers? My research revealed 3 reasons. First reason, noise. Hearing loss can occur at 60 plus decibels. At the operator's ear, gas leaf blowers are 95 to 115 decibels. 50 feet away, it ranges from 64 to 78. These noise levels are literally deafening and also contribute to stress-related health conditions. The second reason is health. Leaf blowers stir up dust, pollen, mold spores, herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, animal feces, and even trace heavy minerals. Leaf blowers aggravate allergies. The gas engines also release contaminants such as carcinogenic benzene and high concentrations of microscopic ultrafine particles. They are roughly 1/1000th of the width of a human hair, meaning they can be deeply inhaled into human lungs, contributing to health problems such as lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, asthma, other ailments. Third reason, greenhouse gas emissions. Think Eugene's climate action plan. California officials say the contamination from running a top-selling leaf blower for 1 hour matches the emissions from driving a 2016 Toyota Camry for 1,100 miles, the distance from Los Angeles to Denver. The bans weren't voluntary, they were mandates. Yes, people complained about their right to continue a behavior. However, some people complain about getting out of bed in the morning, but they still do it. We know that change can be hard. We know that cities cannot reduce their greenhouse gas emissions alone. We know that Eugene will only meet our climate action goals if we have the sustained engagement of our communities, members. Banning gas leaf blowers will send a message. Change is necessary. And if the mayor and the councilors and the citizens want this, it's a good thing. I want to end with a statement I heard in the last couple of days. To get people headed in a new direction, you have to disrupt the way they're currently headed. We have disrupted smoking, we have disrupted drunk driving, and now if we are to survive as a species, we must make disruption of climate destruction a top priority. Councilor Taylor, I know you want Eugene to be gas blower free. I'll work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. David Ivan Piccioni, followed by Jennifer Hoover. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, my name's David Ivan Piccioni, and I agreed with the environmental component of what my friend Debbie said. I want to tell you another, I was here earlier than this meeting, this presentation, and a lady was talking about terrorism. And I wanted to mention that if slaughterhouses and capos had glass walls and everybody could see what was in there would be a lot of changes and really fast. Right now, if you break into a factory farm and you take footage, you are considered a terrorist. I think it's terrorist to hang a cow by one leg and for a long period, for any amount of time, and cut their throats. But I'm not going to address meat because I think that's a lost cause. I'm just going to say the simple things about dairy, for example, dairy and eggs. You can give up the meat, but you still want the eggs and the dairy, right? How do you make a cow produce more milk? Okay, first it has to be impregnated. The industry calls the machine that impregnates cows the rape rack. So you can kind of visualize what that's like. It's not a consensual thing by the cow. Okay, so also, another thing that cows need to keep producing milk is cholesterol. Now, if you think that that cows are being fed plants like grass and stuff like that, that's not going to make it produce cholesterol. Cholesterol is only in animals, which means that cows that are made to produce more milk have to eat other animals. Sources of cholesterol. They're fed ground up fish, other ground up cows that died from tumors. They're fed euthanized animals, and they're fed shredded paper, cement dust, plastic hay, processed manure, things like that. And I think that is terrorism. To do that in a city, I think if this city went vegan, we would be one step ahead of every other city in the world. So, my time has not run up. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm kind of not feeling very happy because when I was heading this way, law enforcement fellow told me to put my cigarette out, and that bugged me. I wasn't blowing smoke up anybody. There was nobody around, and I was just smoking my lonely cigarette, and I had to get harassed. So fuck that law. Power to the people.
Thank you. Jennifer Hoover, followed by Jim New.
Hello. Let's see, I guess I need glasses here. I was wanting to thank everyone for, especially you, City Manager John Reese, and others who, I don't know if they're here today, for helping with the beginnings of dealing with things in the Whitaker. It has become noticeable and it's appreciated. And they're baby steps, they're beginnings, but I think we're going to go forward. Also give some credit to our new chief, Skinner, and to the fire chief, which I'm embarrassed to say I don't know his name, who's been going to the various council meetings and seem to be messaging the same message. And I'm learning the concerns of other people and the similarities. Okay, that said, I hope you don't stop these communications. I hope you keep us involved and informed. And I stand behind the WCC, Chris, who just spoke. And keep the line of communication open. Ask us for help, and we'll give it. We'll be there. And I'm very nervous, and I don't know why. Okay, we are good people. We have noticed some things, the restrooms, or the bathrooms, or the honey buckets, whatever you call them, and so forth. But, and we understand that our EPD is unwell or a little bit anemic because of what's going on with some of them retiring and the timing that it takes to train. But I also get the impression that this new chief, has a plan. And so we're behind him. And I appreciate it. I never thought I'd see that. That's a big deal. And I appreciate the beginnings of what's going on. Once again, thank you.
Thank you. Jim New, followed by Brad Foster.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim New. I live at Ward 7. In 1985, the City of Eugene implemented City Code 2.20, 2.26, which states a Riverfront Research Park Committee shall be in place to oversee the use and principles of the Willamette Greenway. This committee of 7 is appointed by the City Council, Mayor, and the University of Oregon to hold public hearings, gather research, investigate proposals for the North Campus area, and give recommendations as to permitting and use. City Code 9.3725 states the master site plan for development proposed within the SRP Riverfront Park Special Area Zone shall be reviewed through the conditional use permit process provided in this land use code. This means the code that concerns the U of O riverfront requires that the development be consistent with other city policies and codes, which would include 2.20 through 2.26. In October of 2010, a bill for resolution was requested for U of O to comply with an existing intergovernmental agreement of the Riverfront Research Park. This bill was initiated by students, faculty, and the public because the Riverfront Research Park Committee had not met in over a decade. Hearings had not been held concerning proposed development in the gateway sector north of the railroad tracks. Development options had not been voted through public hearings nor with public participation. 3 decades of student, faculty, and community protests have taken place since 1985. A recent search has provided no minutes, agenda, or record of the Riverfront Research Park Committee. If you can provide records of such meetings, I would welcome the information. The hearings official should not be able to make a decision on the U of O North Waterfront conditional use permit because the city and university have failed to follow city code for the last 35 years in improper land use management. I urge Sustainability Commissioner and City Council Member Semple request the city manager to investigate and report back why the city failed to establish a Riverfront Research Park Commission per City Code 2.20. Also, I urge Council Member Semple request the hearings official determination should be held until the city manager's report has been heard by council. Additionally, I was disappointed to see the Sustainability Commission did not have on their agenda or discuss the Climate Action Plan outreach template at their September 19th meeting. Previous meetings had an expected rollout by the commissioners to the public at the end of summer starting in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Foster, followed by Stefan Strick.
Hi, I'm Brad Foster. I live in the Whitaker. It's going to get old. I want to give you a heartfelt thank you, City Manager. It's just been awesome what you did for us with a very quick response of getting us porta potties. People and businesses were really getting tired of dealing with the fecal problem. It's been awesome. And the speed of it is great. I understand that we have more coming. We also got, city staff came and picked up a full truckload of garbage. At the same time, Union Pacific reacted and cleaned up their tracks. So it's been a huge transformation in the community that we really appreciate. I understand we have maybe 3 more porta potties coming, and as long as they work, that's great. I do like the process that says if it's not working, we'll take them out, take a step back. That's actually a process we need to do citywide with things, is when something's not working, go ahead. Don't be afraid to step back and start afresh. But thank you very much. That's been great.
Thank you. Stefan Strick, followed by Dennis Sardin or Sandin, I don't know. Stefan.
Hello, good day, everybody. Thank you all for coming down here tonight. This is a fantastic audience. My name is Stefan Strick, and I am popularly known as the popular vote winner for Mayor of Eugene since 2016. Since this previous primary election, there's also over 6,000 people in the greater 4th District that consider me their representative in Congress, and I'm quite proud of that. I had a fantastic summer. I went to this place called Amsterdam for 2 weeks and had a fantastic time. And I had some good ideas. People tell me I've got the best ideas, and I'd like to share them with you all tonight. Now, they've got this thing over there called prostitution. And you know, some people may have heard about this before, and they say, Stefan Strick, prostitution, that sounds complicated. And that's a fair conjecture, considering that most things involving sex with women are pretty complicated. Prostitution is not so. It's a very simple system where you give women money and they have sex with you. Now, it's actually not that bad. I understand some people might think it's not a good thing, and I can see how you would get that idea. I have spoken with some prostitutes that were not very friendly. They were some of the saltiest women I have ever spoken to in my life. Right here in Eugene, Oregon even. Very crude. However, you can't judge all women based on the actions of a few. You know, there are some fantastic prostitutes out there, and they have great work ethic and that's one thing I really respect in women is work ethic. And there's a lot of them out there that have fantastic work ethic. I was impressed. Now, this is a great way for keeping women safe and healthy, and it's also a great way for guys who aren't me, that don't make lots of money and don't get to have sex with lots of women for free, to experience what it's like to be me for a little bit. So, now, I actually spoke with a pimp, an ex-pimp. You know, I took a public speaking class from an ex-pimp a long time ago. Now, I asked him, Paul, how does this system work? And he told me, you know, I don't got to do nothing, man. Hoes will be hoes, and there isn't nothing that you, me, or anyone else can do about it. And I thought that was the most powerful feminist statement that I've ever heard in my life. You know, you can't stop women from doing what they're going to do. And if you think you can, you're wrong. Trust me. Especially if they're gorgeous. Yeah. Anyways, so it's a pretty simple system. There's a union involved. Like, I mean, take the good with the bad. You got to deal with the prostitutes union. That's all right. However, there is a bad side of things. These women have to pay 19% income taxes, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I think we can have a system here in Eugene where we have tax-free prostitution. This will up tourism and provide some money that we can use to fund schools. You know, it's a great system. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming down here tonight. Yep.
Next, Dennis Sardin, I can't quite read that, and followed by Eric Jackson.
Dennis Sando, 123
Sando,
Fur Lane. Thank you very much. Fur Lane's connected to Lombard Lane and East Briarcliff Lane. They're 16-foot lanes, very, very small. It has exceptional social support happening without any agencies or federal funding. And people who need to use wheelchairs, assistive devices, who have ambulatory needs, can be seen cruising down the middle of any of the lanes at any of the time. That's all about to be destroyed by a 94-unit apartment development that's going approximately 200 yards north of the Valley River Bike Bridge. And that apartment development will cut off the transportation that cuts through our neighborhood. So Lombard Lane will become Lombard Street, a 40-foot right-of-way owned by the city of Eugene after the transaction's approved, if the appeal is not, if the appeal doesn't go to LUBA. So I wanted to ask you for a favor. I'd like you to dispense of goal 1. I've been a planning commissioner for Lane County and Deschutes County, and I see no reason whatsoever to have something in our land use guidelines that suggests that citizens be involved. It's just a joke. Right now, goal 1 is a simple posting of signage to alert residents such as us that their neighborhood is about to be developed. It's a process of doing things to people, not doing things with people. So the only citizen involvement we have that I know that's rigorous and reliable and periodic is paying our taxes. All that being said, I'm going to heap on the praise. There's only 2 people through countless requests to come to our neighborhood that showed up. Commissioner Farr, 3 occasions said he'd show up, he didn't. Jamie Fox from Homes for Good that sold the public property for private interest, private profit, said he'd show up, he didn't. The only 2 people that showed up is our city manager and policy analyst. Thank you very much. We're grateful. We're not happy with the outcome, but we're grateful that you saw what can happen there.
Thank you. Eric Jackson, followed by Shelley.
Mayor Venice, City Council, Manager. It's been a long 20 days since the Marin Circuit Court. I have been sleeping on the concrete on the corner of Broadway and Charlton for the entire time. I've met many, many more people in the community that are homeless. Many, many houses that come by and talk to us. They've dropped off food without talking to us. They've dropped off water. They've dropped off snacks and desserts. And Grandma made a big bowl of chili for us. And it's been a long, trying time. But it won't stop until somebody does something. And I'm hoping that this week is that week. We will have conversations more. Chief and I have spoken. John and I are about to speak, the city manager. I've spoken to Mayor Venice with Patrick Starnes, the independent candidate for governor. And I think we've had some bridges built, but I'm not quite sure. I apologize for being exhausted. You guys know that I'm not normally this. It is not necessarily the right thing to do what I'm doing, because it's making sure that all the elements for camping violations are in place for me, not the others that are sleeping with me. There's no drinks, there's no living room, kitchen, dining room set up, there's no food around them. They're just laying on a backpack and they're snoring. One of the young ladies that had whatever drug problem she has, I've heard many different stories, and I don't know that I believe them all, decided that she was going to come over by where it seemed to be safe to sleep. And you guys, the city council, Chief Skinner, I assume everybody around says there needs to be a low threshold place, which means this person needs to sleep at some point. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing drugs, like the girl that I brought in the first time, which it was not. And had she not been woken up 2.5 hours after she started sleeping, for first time, I don't know how many days she sleeps. I sleep every night. I'm a night owl. I have no problem staying up at night. I'm a little manic, so I have no problem staying up for days if I need to. But right now at 24 hours, just about 24 hours, I'm exhausted. You guys have the ability to do something in this town. The number of homeless people are my graduating high school class. I've met hundreds of them. We had hundreds walk through that camp and stay and talk. I think 125 during the 21 days or the 20 days has been the high count for one evening. And we usually have people awake all the time to make sure it's clean.
Thank you. Shelley, followed by Patrick Starnes.
Hi. This is really hard for me. I'm very emotional, but this is for you. I met with you at Alton Baker Park almost a year and a half ago about trash pickup at the park. The bag is supposed to be tagged by the pickup people, or the people that work in the park. That never happened. You did give supplies, I guess, to a woman named Kathy Walker. The supplies were not in the park. They were left to trash picker-uppers of some bags. I organized the cleanup crew, got guys fed, got them well, gave them drugs, alcohol, whatever it took to get them out there with me. She didn't show up. She stuck the stuff at the tunnel. Trash never happened at the park, and people lost their homes. Last week, a lot of people with babies and dogs and all kinds of stuff because of the trash. They wouldn't have even been seen or heard if there wasn't the trash that was leaking down into the rivers. I brought bags, and the bags were filled. How the hell are we supposed to get them out if no one helps them? They bring stuff in like clothes to lay on, and I can't do it by myself anymore. I was homeless for 2 years. I'm stressed the fuck out. They stole my teeth. I lost my hair. My dog was taken from me 3 times. This isn't about me. It's about all the people that y'all don't see that are hiding in the dark. The women, the families in cars and parking lots. I ended up staying at the Boy Scouts of America. I'm security there now. Scott gave me a place to live on a back patio with electricity and water. No porta potty. We need porta potties, and we need our trash cans back. We need y'all to give us supplies. We need a place, and we need it by ourselves and governed by ourselves. Cops and robbers, folks. We don't like them, and they don't like us. It's lies and bullshit. And I'm going to make sure that the citizens of Eugene know the whole story, not half of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Starnes, our final speaker.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, the city councilors and staff. My name is Patrick Starnes. I'm the independent candidate for governor, but that's not exactly why I'm here. I'm a humble cabinet maker, and I've been on school boards for over 10 years, so I know exactly the difficulty you are going through. We were all volunteers. I was elected 3 times, so I know how that goes too. And I appreciate the support of the staff. We had superintendents. But at the Bijou on 13th, I went to U of O, so I've lived in Eugene before. Currently, my wife and I are restoring old homes in Brownsville. The one we're working on is 1878. But we were at the Bijou on 13th, and we watched a special film called Under the Bridge, and I recommend, if you haven't seen that, you should see that. And that it was at that event that I met Mr. Jackson, and he has invited many of us politicians to stay outside. And so last night, I took him up on that offer, and I'll also be staying outside again in Eugene tonight. I slept in the Kenkezi Square last night. I got up before 5 o'clock and left before, you could say, the stuff hit the fan, is what I heard. But I just wanted to give you some tangibles, what I learned from last night, and I'll have more to share with you in the future. I have my card here. I would like it if you could email me, because I'm also coming out with a statewide proposal for Oregon shelter plan. I've written that, and I've sent it to the media, and I want to specifically, because it'll be a way for the state to help you match dollars to do more, not only with shelter, but with shelter services, you know, for the porta potties and all that you have to do to support the unhoused. But a couple tangible things I'd like to share from my experience last night is I understood from long-timers that have been unhoused here in Eugene for a long time that there were a lot more porta potties downtown for the unhoused. And it's great to hear that you've done that for the Whitaker, because that's where I lived when I went to U of O. But there was only one that I was able to use, and it was terrible, of course. But I would encourage you to go back. It's not like a new proposal. It's something you've already had. And Councilor Taylor probably remembers that you had more support for that. Also, the trash cans, because these folks were trying to clean up, but they just don't always have a place to put the trash after they clean up. They're pretty good at self-policing. I was impressed. They're also good at cleaning up after themselves. And then we're called housies. And then there were a lot of housies coming to visit and young kids that weren't unhoused. But I want to give you my card. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So that is our last testimony. Are there counselors who wish to make comments on things you've heard? Counselor Syrett, Counselor Taylor. Good.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone who came to give constructive feedback and criticism, and thanks to us this evening. And it's truly, I think, a new day when folks from the Whitaker Community Council are making a point, and neighbors, to come and thank the city manager and the chief of police for some quick efforts. And I want to thank the members of the Whitaker Community Council and other residents for their efforts to bring to our attention these problems and to work with the city on potential solutions, on quick solutions that, as I think Brad Foster pointed out, if they're not working, we can regroup and see if there's a different tack to take. So thank you for your efforts, and thank you for coming down tonight and taking time out of your evening to share your feedback directly with this council on what's been going on, because I've wanted some of our other councilors to hear about that, because I think there's other places in the city that might benefit from a similar partnership. And thank you to other folks who came and shared with us about environmental issues and experiences on the street. Always appreciate hearing from you and hope that we can do some things on both those fronts to improve the situation and take some action. Thank you.
Counselor Taylor.
Thank you. About leaf blowers, I've talked about those a few times. And even the city uses leaf blowers. I think that the city could at least stop using them as an example. And I have tried to get an ordinance against them some years ago, I think, not successfully. But at least I think the city could stop using them and give somebody a job breaking leaves, maybe. And I will say I'm not hungry anymore after hearing one of the speakers. The person who talked about homeless shelters, we need state-supported shelters. There was a time when we did have those. There was a time when people had a place, might not want to be there, but nobody had to sleep outside. And they should be supported by something bigger than the city. What's that? Who's talking?
Alan's phone.
Oh, okay.
Interference on the line.
Okay. Anyway, thank you to everyone who spoke, including the mayor, the man who is both mayor and a congressperson, I guess, running for governor. Okay, thank you.
Oh. Manager, did you want to comment on something despite the distraction?
If Alan can hear us, he can just mute. If he's not listening, we can disconnect him too.
That's right.
I was going to say that, but I decided it was too mean.
Thank you.
Oh?
Yeah. Maybe we can bring him back when we do the next order of business and see if he's sorted it out by then. Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment on Stefan's comments, and I respect his right to be, to say and behave in however he chooses to behave. I don't know about Amsterdam. What I do know here in our community and communities along the I-5 corridor, that there are numbers of youth that are sex trafficked and exploited in awful ways. And I think making light of that or perceive that as humorous, I don't think is appropriate.
Thank you very much for sharing that thought. And okay, Councilor Semple.
Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager, for that comment. This is a really big problem that we have that we don't see. Being on the I-5 corridor brings us a lot of troubles. So that is something that we need to be concerned about. I really would like people to start using rakes. Think of all the physical exercise we could get, and we might even lower that carbon problem a little bit. As always, downtown is really a big concern of mine, both for the merchants and the business owners and the workers, and also for the many people who are living down there without houses. So once again, I'm anxious and looking forward to having a place inside, outside, anywhere where people can lie down and sleep at night. This really is critical, and we need more bathrooms, whether they're porta potties or inside or Portland loos. The comments continue both from downtown and surrounding areas that people have needs such as sleep and going to the bathroom. So I look forward to us helping them. It's going to be great. Thank you.
Councilor Sarah, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I appreciate the city manager responding to what I thought were highly inappropriate comments for a public forum. You know, it's unfortunate that we have individuals who occasionally choose to abuse this great public forum we provide here. We are not required to have this time on our city council agenda. Other cities do not do this, and we have found it to be very useful for us to hear from the community in this public forum. It's only 3 minutes, sometimes only 2. But this mayor and city manager could stop having public forum at all if we chose. And so I would encourage individuals to consider how they use this time. And to come and either make a joke or make light of, as the city managers point out, something that leads to ruined lives in our own community is very disturbing. And to come and use the time to brag about one's sex life is also completely inappropriate. And personally, if I had been running the meeting, I would have cut you off.
Thank you. And I'm going to switch gears on this one more time, but I appreciate all of those comments and agree that this was a moment when I really probably should have cut you off. And so we'll may seize that opportunity again if it occurs. I did want to circle back with Shelley and appreciate Shelley coming and talking to her experiences in Alton Baker Park, because we did try, it was an experiment to see if we could make it easier for people who were camping, and clearly it did not work and suffice. So thank you for sharing that so that we learn from that experience. It is our goal to do better. So I appreciate you taking the time to testify. So thank you very much. And Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I too, obviously, think that the things that Mr. Streck said were inappropriate for this forum. But that's not a new experience for me. I find that regularly here. I hear plenty of offensive things said here that go completely unremarked. And honestly, I don't know. I've had an opportunity to run in an election with this man, this young lady, and so I've been around him for a long time, and I honestly don't know whether he's trying to be funny by being absurd or whether he's not. But I think that helps bring to light the fact that it might benefit us to have some different rules and maybe some ones that are fairer around our public forum and the sorts of things that are appropriate to talk about and not. I'd be happy to have a work session about that because there are a number of things I'd probably have an opinion on there too. Not to lessen how inappropriate that was, but it certainly wasn't the first time. It happens regularly that there are many offensive things said by others and then they're clapped for in this room. And it's really pretty hard to hear sometimes, I have to be honest.
Okay, any other final comments? I think that brings our public forum to a close, and we are now ready to move to our first order of business, and maybe Councilor Zelenka can get online again. Would be great.
I'm on the line,
Okay,
Mayor.
great. All right, Manager, do you want to introduce this topic, or we have action? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right. That's the second time I've done that today.
That's all right.
Skipped an item. Yes, sorry, consent calendar.
Move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alan?
Yes.
7. Thank you. Consent calendar is approved, and now we can go on to our action item.
Thanks,
Manager?
Mayor. I'll introduce it, and then we have staff here that can speak to it more or answer questions. But tonight's meeting concerns a claim submitted under ballot measure 49 for waiver of a land use regulation that the property owner claims reduces the fair market value of her property, which is a vacant alley across access lot located adjacent to 70 West 24th Place. The land use regulation in question would limit any dwelling built on the property to 10% of the lot size, or 462 square feet. In lieu of compensation, staff proposes a site-specific waiver of the building size regulation that would allow the claimant to build a 1,200 square foot single-family home that complies with all other residential standards. On September 10, Council voted to extend the open records period until Wednesday the 12th at 5 p.m. and extend the applicant's rebuttal period until September 19th at 5 p.m. Members of the public, City Attorney's Office, and the applicant submitted testimony during that time.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. Thanks for having us back tonight. My name is Dan Lawler. I'm an assistant planner with PDD. I think John did a good job of summarizing just the basis for this claim, what's going on, and what happened at the last council meeting. But feel free to answer or to ask any questions of us, and I'd be happy to provide responses.
Any questions or comments about this? Councilor Semple?
Thank you. I think this one's really tough. I understand both arguments on both sides. However, the way I read it, the use is still allowed, and the word desired doesn't really make a difference to me. Desired means strongly wish or want something. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of things I want, and I'm not going to get them. So I don't really feel that word makes a difference. However, I think it would be the fair thing to do. And since we want to increase density, have infill, smaller lots, it would make sense. However, I don't think that it's the legal thing to do. I think it says you can still use it. So I don't think the law is fair. And when the law isn't fair, it's time to look at it and maybe change it. So I will be putting out a poll for a work session to revisit the maximum building size on alley access lots. And that's regardless of how council votes tonight. I would like to approve this, but I don't feel that I can. So thank you very much for all your work.
All right, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, Lord. This is challenging for me, too. I made the motion for the R1 amendments, and I did that with great intent around property rights. And this is the case where we rubbed there, but I have an awful lot of questions about the law here that I don't know how to square up very well. the word use, for example, let's start this differently. If I'm going to travel from one place to another, if I'm going to travel from here to there, that's not so much a conversation about the destination as it is the distance between, or the location of where one starts and the location of where one ends. For me, a lot of this is definitional around what could one have done before and what could one do after, and how do you define the subtle difference in the word use there. So in this case, someone desired a house of a particular size. That's what it seems to me. And if they desired a house of a different size, initially, how would we know that? And so getting to the notion of was their use constricted? Let's say, for example, hypothetically, that their initial desire was to build a house of, I'm just going to grab numbers out of the air, 500 square feet, and the statute, our changes say that you can only do 480. And is that a difference in use? I'm wondering if this either city staff or the city's attorney would like to give me some guidance about how to think about the word use in this case.
Want me to jump in? I think that the reason why you all are probably struggling with this is because this is the gray area of which there is a struggle. Measure 49 does not define use. And so what the testimony speaks to and what the staff recommendation is around is, at what point does a physical regulation result in an impact of how the property can be used? And what you see from staff recommendation was the difference between the use that was allowed before, 2,000 plus square foot dwelling, to 10% coverage or 462. What they recommending is, well, that is actually a significant limitation on how the property can be used, that it fundamentally alters the use of the property.
Forgive me if I jump in here.
Yes.
Isn't that a subjective decision?
Yes. Right. Yes. And
so how would you give us guidance about how to find our way through that subjectiveness?
And the testimony, I think that even with the folks, all the testimony that came in, there's a fundamental disagreement, I think, on really where that tipping point is. But the question that everybody is asking is the same. At what point does a physical characteristic limitation tip the balance to be a restriction on the use? And when is it, so if it wasn't a 10% lot coverage, what if it was a 5% lot coverage? And so the maximum square footage of the building was 232 square feet.
If I could, what if it were 2% and suddenly we're talking about a 100 square foot building, which obviously can't be built? Isn't that a prohibition?
And the Measure 49 doesn't say prohibition, it says restriction. And so you have a statute that doesn't have these terms defined. And so what you're left to grapple with is, does, in this fact pattern, because it's a fact-specific analysis, because it's specific to this property owner, does the application of this code section change the use of her property? So does it in this case? And so if it was a 2,000 square foot home that went to a 150 square foot home, this wouldn't feel hard, I don't think, as hard for you. Because you're like, well, 2,000 square foot to 100 square foot feels like a restriction on the use. It's still a limitation on the physical characteristics of a dwelling.
But this particular applicant, for example, might have chosen any size to start with, correct?
We weren't looking at her desired size. What was looked at was how she could have used that property.
Is that determined by the appraisal? Is the number
Go ahead.
difference?
Jump on it.
So the The appraisal determines the highest and best use of the property, and they identify it as a single-family primary dwelling, but it also goes into talk about the reduction in the property value that resulted in what you could do with this lot before the regulation was enacted and what you could do with the lot after. And
Could I stop you just for a moment?
yes, you may.
The appraisal determines highest and best use? Is that what you said?
A statutory requirement of the statutory provision that codifies Measure 49 as just, for every Measure 49 claim that comes in requires the appraisal to identify what the highest and best use is under the statutory definition of that term.
And if I might add, it may help to frame the question a little more specifically. I mean, staff's perspective in this case really, I think, hinges on the difference between a restriction of use, as Catherine's describing it, and prevention of that. And I think the opposing testimony really focuses on that question as well. And so in terms of the restriction and the size that you're asking about, we looked at what the residential zoning would have allowed. So it's not an imaginary number. It's really based on a combination of factors, the maximum percentage of lot coverage, setbacks, building height limits, and such. And our understanding is that that highest and best use, or the largest dwelling you could have, would be in the range of upwards of 2,000 square feet, whereas now it can only be 462 square feet. So it really was based on a combination of the appraisal and the existing zoning as compared to after the new regulation.
And as the maker of the initial motion, wanting to see alley access lots in R1 and the things that are covered in there continue to be developed in the manner specified, what would that lead someone like me in a general sense to conclude that I would, in this particular case, my decision is really about whether or not, I'm trying to understand my question better. I'm sorry. I'd like a round two and let some other people talk for a minute.
Great. Anybody else need? Chris, Councilor Pryor.
Yeah,
Mayor, I'd like the queue.
Okay, great.
We're using the word desire as if desire is a legal aspect to this question, and I'm trying to get back to the basic notion, which is not what you desire to build, but what you were able to build before and what you're able to build after. And not what you desire to build, is what legally you could do then versus what legally you can do now. Is that, am I on?
Yes, I mean, and that is what, where you're getting the numbers. So a 4,000 plus square foot lot based on the prior regulations with a 50% lot coverage, you could have built a 2,000 plus square foot lot versus what can be built now, 10% lot coverage, 462. Part of where the word desire does actually show up in Measure 49. And it talks about the applicant needs to submit information that includes 6 or 7 things, and 2 of them speak of the applicant's desired use. So the term desire, also not defined in the statute, unfortunately, but that term does appear in what how the applicant's supposed to present the claim. But the analysis that you see, and the basis for staff's recommendation on this was based on what she could have done before and what she can do now. And then the 1,200 square foot is what she's asking for. That's her desired use, is 1,200 square feet. So that's another place where you actually hear, well, what I desire to build is 1,200 square feet, whereas somebody could have come in and said, I want a waiver of the entire regulation, build up to the 2,000 plus. So you see that word desire come up in a couple different places when we're having these conversations around Measure 49.
But you're not using desire then as a way to confirm the loss of use. I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't have to prove that I desired to build a 200 square foot house before, and somehow you've taken away that desire with the rule you passed. Somebody can just come in and say, I want to build a 1,200 square foot house. That is my desire now. And I'm restricted from doing that, whereas I could have done it before.
Yes, and so the desire matters, because if someone came in and said, well, I desire to build a 5,000 square foot house, I could have built a 2,000 square foot one before, their desire is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So exactly right. And here, could have built a 2,000 plus square foot house, can build 462 now. desire to build 1,200 could have done it then, can't do it now. So, but it is not, the decision about whether, and the analysis that's done on the appraisal isn't regarding desire. That just matters when it comes into what is being sought to be waived.
What's being applied for.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'm kind of coming back to, they could do this before, and they can't do it anymore. To me, this Measure 49 question boils down to, you could have done this before, we passed code amendments, and now you can't do it anymore. And so under Measure 49, that changes the condition.
And the fundamental question is the change now a restriction on the property owner's residential use? And that's where, and that's what I think everyone's trying to frame, which is a regulation that prevents somebody, that limits what could have been a 2,000 square foot house to a 462, is that a limit on someone's residential use? The one argument is residential is residential, it's just a different size. Yeah, it's a 462 square foot home, but it's still a home. The other argument is no, you've fundamentally changed the nature of someone's residential use of their property when they could have built a 2,000 plus square foot home, and now they can build 462. And so then the question becomes, at what point does it get fundamentally altered? If it's not 462, is it 300? Is it 200? And when we looked at it, and there's not case law out there to help us on this, unfortunately, we do try to look at it from the perspective of, what is a reasonable interpretation? And where we landed was a judge would say, a 2,000 plus square foot house, and now you can do 462. We think they're more likely to conclude yes. And that's how we came to that conclusion.
I'm still trying to get my head around. So I'm trying to get it down to its absolute simplest form. They could do X before, and they can no longer do X.
Correct.
Now they can do Y because of something the city of Eugene did.
Correct.
A code amendment that we passed. So they can no longer do X. They now can only do Y. They would have liked to build something more toward X than towards Y, and they're saying, because you passed this rule that doesn't allow me to build something more like X, I need a waiver so I can build something more like X because you changed what was before the way it actually legally was. So my inclination is to say, well, yeah, if they could have built 1,200 before, I'm not talking 2,000, if they could have built 1,200 before, and we pass, and the city did something that said they can no longer do that, then I don't think we can say, tough, you can still build 462, be happy with that. That's not my job, is to tell them what they can be happy with. My job is to determine whether or not I change the conditions under which they could build. And I'm hearing, yes, we changed the conditions under which they could build, so I think some sort of a waiver is probably the reasonable thing to do in this case. At least that's the way I'm understanding it. Thank you.
Councilor Surratt.
Thank you. So first, I appreciate Councilor Simple mentioning revisiting the vote we took. I would very much like to revisit the limitations we put on flag and alley access lots. If my memory is correct, I don't think I voted for those changes, but if I did, I've had a change of mind.
You didn't.
Oh, Mike remembers my vote.
I remember.
So yeah, so I didn't like him to begin with. And so I do have a question. One of the pieces of public comment we got opposing us giving this waiver is that if we approve this, this will cause a proliferation of similar claims. Is that a legitimate reason under the law for denying a claim under Measure 49?
No.
Thank you.
And if it's worth noting, Measure 49 has been in effect for 11 years. And one of the reasons why these aren't easy is it's your second one in 11 years that you've been grappling with. So they haven't been common. I think 11 years ago, we didn't really know what the landscape was going to look like when it came to Measure 49, but this is the second one that's come before the city.
Yeah, thank you. So, thinking about some of the arguments here, here's, I find it difficult to support the logic that if you can use the lot to build a tiny house when your desired use is for a single family home, that you still get to, you haven't been limited in your use. It might be suitable for some families to live in a 462 square foot house, but many families would not be able to make such a small house usable for their family. A home of less than 500 square feet might be fine for a single person family, but not for any family much larger than that. So I actually see this as an actual restriction on the use of this property to create a modest home that can actually house a family that consists of more than one person. So that's my position.
Councilor Zelenka.
Thanks, Mayor. First, apologies for the interference from the phone. There's a problem with the 30-second delay when you're watching the webcast, and so you don't know that that's happening for 30 seconds. So sorry about that. Which is also why I didn't vote on the earlier part. I was chimed in on the first part of the meeting, but by the time you had voted on the name change of the street, 30 seconds had passed.
Right.
So good work on being fast. I'm not a fan of Measure 49. I think it's a poorly crafted law, which is why we find ourselves in this position. My concerns were precedent and whether or not this is fair. On the precedent, city attorney has assured me that this is a pretty one-off kind of thing, that this isn't going to create a precedent. The floodgates are not going to open. City attorney, do Measure 49 claims go on forever? Can this keep coming up, or is there a time limit on these things?
There's, the statute provides that a claim needs to be brought within 5 years of the passage of the regulation. So for this particular alley access lot provision, 2019 would be the 5 years. Yeah, so we got about a little less than or a little more than 1 year left for these. So it's 5 years from the date of adoption.
So if we adopted something this year, there'd be another 5 years before someone could bring a claim?
They could bring the claims for the next 5 years, correct?
You're right, okay. To me, this is kind of a one-off. It's an alley access, individual tax lot. It's not an ADU. Some people seem to be confusing about that. And so this is a one-off. I don't think it's fair what's happening to the person who owns this lot. And so I am in favor of granting them an exception. And as I said last time, I believe we should go back and look at this code provision and change it. We lumped it in with ADUs, and I don't think it should be lumped in with ADUs. I think they should be a separate thing. So I think what she's asking for is reasonable, and we should grant this exemption. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Ye.
Thank you. I think the problem I have with this is what the homeowner is, or what the property owner is asking for seems very reasonable. You know, it doesn't seem like 10% of the property is enough, and 462 square foot home does seem very small. But I have to agree with Emily. I don't think this is the way to fix it. It's the easy way, I think, to fix it, the fastest way, but I don't think it's the right way. So I have a question for you. At what square footage is a single family home that then you would be like, no, it's okay. That's good enough. That's big enough. Like 462 is apparently too small, so.
Well, so I don't think there is a specific square footage. I don't think we could just, pick a number and put something on that. Like Catherine was saying, this is really a case-by-case factual analysis, and it's unfortunate that we haven't had many Measure 49 claims to kind of judge how much of a difference in building size would constitute a restriction in use. And so, I'm sorry I can't give you a specific number, but I think, it takes looking at the specific facts of this situation. And, the way staff sees it is that the difference in buildable space of upwards of 2,300 square feet down to 462 square feet is a restriction, really focusing on the term restriction, which is used in the statute. That constitutes a restriction in the use of that single-family home. And so that's our view on it, but I'm sorry I couldn't give you a specific number. I don't think I could do that and feel comfortable with it.
Well, I appreciate you not doing it if you don't feel comfortable. No, and I appreciate that, but I really feel like, to me, Measure 49, this is not the intent of what they were going for. I feel like they were going for, I used to be able to build a house and I can no longer build a house, or I used to be able to build an apartment complex, or I used to be able to do whatever, and now I can no longer do that at all. And so for this particular case, I think it should be fixed, but I think it needs to be fixed through the code. And it'll take a little bit longer maybe, but it'll also fix it for future issues, because clearly there's something wrong with this code and it needs to be fixed, no matter how this vote goes. I agree with Councilor Semple, it needs to look at. So thank you.
I have folks lined up for a second round, but I'm going to just jump in for a little bit here. No, Alan, Alan got a first round. I think, Betty didn't get a first round. Do you need a first round?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to jump in, and then we'll do a second round. So I think that going back to both what Chris has said and what Alan has said, that to keep in mind that we are judging this case. We are not at this point judging what the code is. We are judging this case based on Measure 49 and whether this specific property owner is frustrated by a restricted use that she did not used to have. And I think any of us could say in a reasonable way that a 462 square house is a severe restriction in living space compared to what she's asking for, which is 1,200, or what she was entitled to of over 2,200. So I think common sense does have to play a part here in terms of just understanding the context. And remember, we can go back to look at the code. We should, but that is not what we are deciding here. We are deciding whether this is fair for this particular property owner. So I would just keep that in mind. It's a very specific case. The code will be another conversation, a good one and an important one, but this is somebody's life and property and investment, and so it's not just a matter of principle, it's a matter of whether it's fair. So with that, we'll turn it back over to Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Forgive me, with all respect, I want to ask the city's attorney something. Is the question before us, and is the point of Measure 49 to ask whether it is fair?
No.
Right. The question is, as I understand it, Measure 37 was about takings, and I was a big fan of Measure 37. I thought it was a great thing. But as I understand it, the legislature went in and made a very distinct effort to I don't know how to describe this better, but to water down what Measure 37 did. I thought it was very clear and specific. If you lost something, if you had a taking, you were to be compensated for that. 49 was to water that down and allow for the fact that sometimes the changing landscape of our regulatory environment creates realities where we have different thoughts about how we ought to work together. And to my colleagues, I would say, we change the landscape on people all the time and cost them all kinds of money. Sick leave. I personally pay all manner of money every year in extra brown paper bags at the grocery store just to have a little fun.
You could bring some.
Right, and my point is that we do that all the time, and it's not fair. But that's not the question, I don't think, before us. The question is, and this is why I focused on the word, what is the use fundamentally altered?
and that's not the question either.
Okay, help me understand the question then.
It is, the question is whether there is a restriction on the claimant's residential use of her property. And so you asked a yes or no question, which is the analysis fairness? And the answer is no. But within the question that is being posed to you, which is there a restriction on her residential use of the property?
And the difference between restriction and prohibition lies where?
Let her finish. So,
Well, but I'm the one that I want.
So the difference between a restriction and a prohibition is, one is, well, I'll just swap out words, like a thesaurus to search here. A limitation
in the law
versus a can't do it anymore. Like one's an outright meh, and the other is a limitation. And so the piece of what I hear people and see people struggling with is that with the fairness piece, that comes into the subjective analysis that being put in front of you of, is it a restriction on the residential use of her property? And part of that is, where's that gray? Where's the tipping point? And Mayor, what you said was, I'm trying to think of the fairness. At what point does it stop being a single-family home? So,
and the reason I sometimes interrupt, and I apologize, is because I want to use the city's attorney to help me clarify. Forgive me. I don't want to let her make the opposite point for me
well,
during
you
my
asked
time.
me a yes or no question, and I needed to clarify the yes or no.
Yes, I know. But the thing that I'm struggling with here is that word use, because you can still build a house.
Yes.
And okay, it's not the house I like, it's not the house I want, but Measure 49 isn't about that anymore, because it's not about, if the question is, was there a taking? Well, yeah, you can define that. There was a taking because it had X value before, and it had X value now.
That's not the way takings law works
That's what I'm saying.
at all.
That's the way 37 would work, am I right?
If I may clarify, one of the components of a Measure 49 claim that must be met is that the effect of the regulation reduces the fair market value of the property. So I think that may be what you're just trying to describe as a taking, but in the context of the statute, it's about a combination of factors. One is, is the use restricted, and does that reduce the value of the property?
I think the goal of what we did in that particular case with that particular ordinance change was of very high community value. I see the restriction as minimal. I'm tempted, and tell me about the consequences of a no vote. Tell me the result of a no vote.
The property owner can build a 462 square foot dwelling, or she can appeal.
Right? And the consequence of a yes vote is that they just get to build it, or that we'd have to pay them? Is there no circumstance in which we'd have to pay them the difference?
Measure 49 gives the council an option. So if you chose to approve the claim, you could provide that she can build a 1,200 square foot home, or you can state that you will pay her the $25,000 difference in value. It's up to you.
I am also concerned that there are a host of other land use issues on which this could become the template for what we may see next. And it's not just on this particular thing. There's not that many alley access lots. And there's not, we're restricted by absolute numbers. But this is a form of dealing with these manner of claims that there may be other ones as we work through rural reserves and clear and objective standards. I think there will be some other ones that apply here. So I'm concerned about that too.
Okay, Councilor Semple.
Thank you. Well, I'm still having trouble with this one. I really want to approve it and let the bigger building happen, and I think that's fair, but I'm really conflicted about what I think the law says. So I have a question in 195.3101B. The person's desired use of the property is a residential use or a farming, I suppose, use, or forest practice. So to me, that says that there's 3 choices for a property. You can use it for a residence, for farming, or for forest. And the person's choice is how to use it for those 3 things, not that I want a bigger house, so that's what I desire. So if that's correct, that the use is a choice of those 3 things, then she's not denied the use, and I can't approve it, even though I want to. Any help on that one?
Yeah, so I think I see what you're saying, and this is where, again, we really start focusing on the terminology in the statute with the word restrict residential use. So we see residential use, as it's mentioned in the provision that you stated, as one of the types of uses, and then the specific use in this claim would be her desired residential use of 1,200 square feet being restricted down to 462 square feet. So again, it brings us back to the terminology of the statute being restrict instead of prevent. And we believe had the legislature intended for that argument to prevail, they would have said prevent use of the property rather than restrict.
I really, really, really don't like this. I really want to say yes, and I think this is interpretation of the law. I think we're going to need, case law to really decide this, because to me, the use is one of these 3 things, and she can still use it. I want the bigger house. We need the bigger house. But I feel up against the wall about saying, yeah, you can have it, even though I want to. And that's just how I'm interpreting the law. I'm not a lawyer, but that's how it really seems to me. Fair or not, the law is not about always being fair, and we all know that. Thanks.
I'm going to let Betty jump in because she hasn't done first, and then Chris.
That's true. The law is not always fair, and it is always fair to everyone. And my question is, if we vote no, which I'm inclined to do, then we could change the law later if we wanted to. Is that correct?
You can change our code.
Change the code, I mean. Yeah.
You could do a code amendment.
So that we wouldn't have to go against the law to give permission. We could think of what makes sense and try to change it. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, hang on. Councilor Pryor.
I absolutely agree with Councilor Semple and the others that have said we need to revisit this stuff. Like Councilor Syret, I was not one of the people who voted for the R1 code amendments back in 2014. I was supportive of the work staff did, which was thrown away and replaced with amendments written from somebody outside. And so we're dealing with the problems of this isn't staff's work, this was outside work that we passed, and these are now the problems that are suddenly bubbling up and cropping up that we have to deal with. So I do think we need to sit down and revisit the R1 code amendments that we passed. I don't think we need to wholesale change them all back again, but I do think we need to look at them specifically in terms of what unintended consequences have occurred as a result of that. You mentioned flag lots. Yeah, there were several hundred people that could no longer build because of what we did with the R1 code amendment. So with that said, I think this is one thing we can do now for a woman to fix a problem that she has. And while I agree we need to look at the law, we need to fix it, and it's troubling right now, this is one issue, one person who would like to be able to build a certain kind of house, and because of our rules, she can't. And if we say no, we're telling her, you know what? I know you'd like to build a 1,200 square foot house. I know you could have built one before. We passed rules that said you can't, but hey, the rule's a rule. I don't want to do that. I think in this case, I'm willing to grant her the exception and then look at the law and say, yeah, we need to fix it. We need to fix that. We need to fix whatever. But in this particular case, if I want to have a car, and somebody says, well, you know, you can't really have a whole car. You can have the engine block. And I say, well, but an engine block's not enough. I want a whole car. Well, I'm not denying you a car. I'm just saying you can have the engine block. So you still have a car, just the engine block of the car. Maybe it's a bad metaphor, but for me, it's the one I'm working with right now. Or they say, you can't have a car, you can have a bicycle. And I say, well, I don't want a bicycle, I want a car. Well, the law says you can have a bicycle, so you should be happy with the bicycle. I think in this instance, if she wants a car, she used to be able to, could have had the car before, I don't want to make her have a bicycle. I want to let her have a car if that's what she could have had before. So I am supportive of, in this one instance, granting her the exemption, knowing that it's a one-time deal for one person to do the right thing, and then we will sit down and review this law and get it whipped back into shape and get it fixed.
Okay, I have Counselor Clark and Counselor Semple for next round.
My concern.
Can I get an excuse me?
Oh, yes.
My concern, Councilor Pryor, is I don't think it will be a one-off. I think it will create a form by which we will, and if not us, then certainly Court of Appeals beyond us, will look at as a precedence that will bind us in other things we're going to do in the future. Let me ask a hypothetical, because I think I may have a halfway here. So let's say that we vote no on this particular claim, but tomorrow we revisit R1, as I think most people want to at least have that discussion. And in this one narrow instance, we move the number from 10% to 25%. Say we do that tomorrow. Can this woman now build the house she wants to build?
We wouldn't be able to do that tomorrow.
I'm not suggesting we could. What I'm asking about is, does the remedy that I'm suggesting hypothetically accomplish both ends without putting us in position of an inappropriate precedent? Because as I calculate a 4,800 square foot lot and a 1,250 square foot house, let's say we move from 10 to 25%, can she not then build a 1,200 square foot house?
I think that depending on the public process involved with the code amendment and the council's ultimate choice as to what that percentage is, the answer may be yes.
Thank you, sir. That's what I wanted to
know. Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Semple.
Thank you, Mayor. Responding to Councilor Ye's question of, is this the right way to do it? I think this is an extremely limited issue, and if I got it right, City Attorney, every case moving forward has to have this, more or less, this fact set for this to have some kind of precedence, and for the number of cases that would move forward that would have this fact set would be extremely limited. Is that correct?
Correct.
So this doesn't really, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, to the extent that we're talking about similarly situated property owners, you need to find facts that are going to be nearly identical for me to say you are bound to what you did unless you can find a rational basis to make another decision. When it comes to Measure 49 type cases, the facts are so discrete to each piece of property in each regulation that we'd be very hard pressed to be in that situation.
So this does not create a broader Measure 49 exemption that could be used in other dissimilar cases.
Correct.
So in this case, it's the number of there are an extremely limited number of individual tax lots that are R1 that are alley access. And so incredibly, probably small number, we could probably count them on two hands, maybe. But my understanding is that's extremely limited. And then on top of that, this Measure 49 claim has only like another year left in its life to be able to be brought. So the risk that this will happen in another case is probably extremely, extremely low. So if we vote no on this, what we're saying to this woman is, no, you can't do what you want to do on this particular case, but you can after we change the law, which means we have to go through the whole process of going through the Planning Commission and all this stuff, public hearings, and it'll take months and months and months. And then in the end, I think the majority of council wants to get to that place. So the question is, should we is it fair to tell her, no, you can't do that now? You can wait another year or 9 months, and then you can do it after we change the code. And if I thought that it would open the floodgates on allowing a whole bunch of people to do this thing, then I would vote no as well. But in this case, it's so limited and so unique that voting yes does not create a broad exemption, does not create a broader Measure 49 exemption, and it doesn't create the floodgates opening up. It would give her the ability to do this on her property, and then we can go and fix the code and take a look at why this particular alley access single-family individual tax lot was lumped in with ADUs in this law, which I don't think is appropriate. So in the end, I think we end up the same place. It's just a matter of, do we make her wait 9 months or a year and potentially have another lawsuit and spend a whole bunch of money defending that as well. So in that path just doesn't seem like the path to go on. Giving her this limited exemption with the thought that it's not going to have much impact on the rest of the world and then going and fixing it is the right path to go on for me.
Councilor Semple.
Thank you. I was pretty much going to say what Councilor Clark said. 30% would be 1,300 square feet and 20% would be 900 square feet. So 25 works out great. Yeah, it might take 9 months, but a lot of things go slowly and she could still get her house just 9 months later. And I would be so much more comfortable doing that. I want her to have the house, but I want her to have the house in a way that anybody could have the house. And I want to give her an exception, but then any law, I could say, it's not fair to you specifically, so I'll let you out. You know, I don't want you sleeping on the sidewalk. So even though the law says I should give you a citation, I'm not going to do it because I want you to have sleep. We do that all the time, but are we being fair? You know, I could think of better examples. I just am really disturbed about the way that we're making it fair for her. I think we should make it fair for her by changing our rules so they're the same for everybody. And I want her to build that house, but I'm not going to go for this way. It's not how I interpret the law. I'm not the judge, but I have to decide how I want to vote on what I feel. And she can have a residence. She can't have a farm or a forest practice there.
I'm just going to add one more comment, which is just to say that she has gone through a fairly exhaustive process to submit for this waiver. So it is, she has done that due diligence, so it's not, why are we treating her differently than other people? She has chosen to embark on this long process. So she gets consideration because the law allows her to receive this consideration. So I just think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I understand your hesitation and your desire to change the code, but we know this is one of many issues which council is going to deal with in terms of land use, and I don't think there's any sort of guarantee that at the end of the day what that code is going to look like. So if the assumption is that you deny it now because you're promising that you're going to change this code in a way that works for her, I don't think that's really realistic. So I've just put that out there, but I think any other final comments on this?
Emily wants another round.
Oh, Emily wants another round. Okay, go for it, Emily.
I don't want to interpret laws and whether or not I'm going to make exceptions dependent on how much work the person did.
No.
So that doesn't work for me.
It's just that she has a legitimate, she's gone through a process that has a legitimate claim, and so that's why we're considering it, not because, there's some. Okay, ready to vote. Let's see.
We don't have a motion on the table.
We don't have a motion on the table, so we need a motion.
Just a little bit
Yes, you may.
I would say, for me, this, I think the appropriate way to remedy something that isn't to the desire of someone, if the council agrees, is to make it, as Emily mentions, applicable to everyone. For me, to make a decision on what the state law says based on how someone has behaved to try and have an exception to it seems very arbitrary to me, and I'm not comfortable with that. So this is a very difficult decision, and I get why all of us can have a difference of opinion on that. That's just fine. But I still have to come down against, I think. Thank you. And so I will make the motion as listed. Move to adopt a resolution granting a Measure 49 claim for property located adjacent to 70 West 24th Place, Eugene, Oregon.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Alan?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Okay, all opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it fails.
So you also have in your packet a motion, resolution and findings denying the resolution. I think just for formality
Right.
purposes, it makes, I would prefer you move to adopt the resolution denying, so there's official action.
So moved. Can I do that?
So, yes.
I didn't see it.
There's not one in here. It would be move to deny, you can say so moved quickly, but move to deny, move to adopt a resolution denying a Measure 49 claim for property located adjacent to 70 West 24th Place, Eugene, Oregon.
Map 18030642, tax lot 2700. Yes? Did I just complete that for you or no?
Yeah.
Yes. Attachment D?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Question, Mayor.
Oh, yes.
So by doing this, does that mean that we have to pay her claim?
No,
No, you're denying the claim.
it's valid.
You're denying the request for the Measure 49 claim, so you don't pay or waive.
And so she just appeals, and we pay lawyers.
Well, I'm in-house.
You don't have to answer that, Catherine.
I'm in-house, so I'm.
Somebody gets paid by this action, so it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Alan?
Opposed.
Okay, so 4 in favor, 3 opposed, so that passes. Okay, that's the end of our business. Thank you. Adjourned.